On August 8th, 2017, the video game Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was released. A review embargo lifted the day that the game came out, and at which many fans found out that there was a permadeath mechanic. And, well, not a lot of people were happy. This caused an uproar amongst the pro-consumer gaming side of things. Popular YouTuber Total Biscuit said that gamers should have known about the mechanic before the game was even released and they had purchased the game, calling the mechanic old, outdated, and a waste of everyone's time. Well, a lot of people didn't like the fact that the permadeath mechanic was revealed. A lot of people citing that it was the developer's intention that it would be a surprise for players. So this brings up a really big question. What is one's obligations in divulging spoilers? What is a critic's role in all of this? And, well, most importantly, why does any of this even matter? Well, we'll find out. We're talking about spoilers, basically, yeah.
Technology has allowed for more and more people to consume even more media than ever before. This has caused some major questions to arise. Since everyone can have access to virtually every television show and movie that one might want to see, what is stopping people from spoiling the ending of, say, Season 2 of House of Cards to other people? Well, the creation of time-shifting technologies that allow people to view television and movies when they choose to view it. These technologies, such as Netflix and DVRs, have caused an increased disdain towards spoilers. This is important because spoilers have become a fervent part of many pop culture conversations, and people are willing to withdraw from society because of its inclusion in social media and discussions. Time-shifting technology has, if not spawned, spoiler culture. This has also sparked debate over the spoilers' place in popular culture. The fact that more media is at the fingertips of the average consumer has made spoilers a more prevalent part of popular culture. The history of spoilers and time-shifting technology, for that matter, are very much intertwined. In the time before these technologies, people had to watch the shows on television, either during their original airing time or when that show reran. People used to not go back and watch old episodes because they didn't really have the means to do so.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic. This is where Ralph dresses up as a man from space.
What do you mean you've seen this? It's brand new.
Yeah, well, I saw it on a rerun.
What's a rerun?
You'll find out.
Also, people didn't really miss anything because they missed an episode of Frasier. Each episode was self-contained and did not have any overall story arcs for the most part. Eventually, because of time-shifting technology, many people started to feel that the most important part of shows were the narratives that were inside these shows. This is shown through angry responses one would receive when spoiling the ending to a movie, book, comic book, or television show.
What kind of lard-brained punk writes spoiler alert after giving out the spoiler? Hashtag you!
But when did this all start? When did people realize in conversations and in writings that they should warn people about pieces of information that might ruin one's enjoyment of a work? According to a New York Times article, the use of the phrase spoiler alert in the newspaper was non-existent until 2003. Before this, Roger Ebert wrote a movie review using spoiler alert, a term he had never used before. Even though this is a movie review, Ebert would not have included it if he had not felt that there was a need for it. While the emergence around the 21st century could be due to other factors, it would be very negligent not to consider the recent release of the DVR by TiVo in 1999 as a factor to the use of the word spoiler. Additionally, a Google Trends search would show that the term spoiler alert and the word streaming became a significant search term in the year 2007. This is also the year the television and movie streaming service Hulu was created. Also, this was the year Netflix started to offer streaming to its customers. Even though a Washington Post article from 1994 states that the term spoiler alert was common, the author states that it was mainly used in discussions of movie buffs. With the increased use of spoilers online, people have come to see it as a problem. But it would be very negligent of me to suggest that time-shifting technology was solely responsible for spoiler culture today. Indeed, it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. Directors wanted to tell more and more complex stories that needed to be serialized, and cable was a pretty nice place for all that. All these developments kind of really happened hand in hand, really, and complemented each other. So I don't really think anything here is exclusively responsible for spoiler culture, but people have taken a lot of steps to try to keep spoilers from happening to themselves. There have actually been software programs made by Netflix that fixes the problem of spoilers. The program reduces the possibility of spoilers occurring by redacting all posts on Twitter that contain certain keywords, such as house, cards, breaking, or bad. Some people think that time-shifting technology is going to change the way movies and television are made, and actually, that is true to a certain extent. There's actually a really good Idea Channel video about it. Time-shifting technology more clearly has changes to spoiler culture, and consequently has made notable changes to the way we talk about popular media. Because of people using a Netflix Twitter blocker, a time-shifting service that is actually directly changing how we have discussions about media. People are separating themselves off into people who are just like them. This is significant because people are choosing to put a wall around themselves just so that they could consume the media without a tainted mind. Additionally, a fan site for Game of Thrones called Tower of the Hand blocks posts on their discussion boards that contains spoilers. The user inputs all of the A Song of Ice and Fire books and all of the Game of Thrones episodes that they have watched, and the computer algorithm redacts all the spoilers from the articles on the site. Fans have reacted extremely towards spoilers, and technology moved in to meet the demand for spoiler shields. But what do critics say about spoilers? Well, different critics have different opinions on the topic of spoilers in today's society. Some list out guidelines to the oldness of the show for a person to talk about it freely, while others list out reasons the concept of a spoiler is restrictive for critics. Critics that say the anti-spoiler movement is silly do so because they believe that those people who are vehemently against spoilers prefer the sanctity of narrative over style. Roger Ebert, on the other hand, believes in including spoiler warnings in his reviews. He believes that, quote, critics have no right to play spoiler. It does seem that the reason why there is a vehement argument against spoilers is because the people who do not like spoilers are the most vocal and would complain when a spoiler is included in a review. People who do not mind spoilers are not going to complain about it. Even science has something to say about it. A study published in the psychology journal aptly named Psychological Science said that spoilers did not affect a person's enjoyment, even if it had a twist ending. Actually, most of the time, people rated the spoiled stories higher than the stories that were not spoiled. The study also repeated in 2016 and led to the same conclusion. Christian Field later explained this in an interview actually pretty clearly.
Really, you read fiction for the beauty of the prose and the cleverness of the construction and insights into human nature, and maybe even knowing the ending is useful because it allows you to focus on these other parts. The same way if you're driving up Highway 1 through Big Sur, if you know the road really well, you can now peek around and admire the view and the otters frolicking in the surf. Whereas if you don't know what the road is, you have to be focusing on that sort of mundane detail.
This shows that people can still enjoy their favorite shows and movies even when they have been spoiled. It also suggests that spoilers help people understand what's happening in the story, and it also helps build suspense. But why is it that people get so fed up by people spoiling their movies and show? There are many theories to why people get fired up when they go onto social media, or they are talking to a friend and they spoil the movie or television that the person had been waiting to see. The film critic Jonathan Rosenbaum feels that this is because people want to maintain a sense of innocence. He equates this innocence to the days of when the viewer's parents would take their child to the movie theater. The child at this time knew nothing about the film. Dr. Ali Mattu, a clinical psychologist, suggests that people get upset because of the emotional investment involved with anticipating watching the said movie or show. This investment, when randomly dissolved by an article online or by a person on social media, causes a person to become very frustrated because it was something very personal. Mattu also gives another explanation, being that the people who do not care about spoilers really avoid intense experiences. He refers to something called experiential avoidance, which is the tendency to avoid thoughts, feelings, memories, and physical interactions. This suggests that people who do care about spoilers actually do like those intense experiences. There are a lot of conversations and debates surrounding about what to do about spoilers. The whole dilemma was catalyzed by the proliferation of time-shifting technology. Without time-shifting technology, this conversation would not have been as prevalent, because if someone had cared about the television show, they would have seen it when it was aired. They might have actually asked their friend to spoil what had happened on the latest episode of Dallas. People ask, hey, what happened on yesterday's insert name of soap?
Oh, I called him. He's in Liberia visiting my uncle. Wants to know what happened on Lost.
The way people talk about movies and television has changed because of time-shifting technology. It has also changed ways people interact with each other, because they will put a barrier between themselves and other people. This creates almost a subculture amongst people who have seen the same stuff. As more and more things get personalized, discussions about television is one of them. I personally think that the whole concept for spoilers are kind of overrated. We go to movies that are adaptations of our favorite books. Heck, people watch all the adaptations of Romeo and Juliet or Hamlet, even though we know how those are going to end up. We watch movies about very famous historical events, TV shows too. We rewatch our favorite movies over and over and over again. There's a whole genre of media that spoils what's going to happen, the tragedy. In these, we're not worried if the main character is going to survive, but actually how it happens and why. I think we regard plot way too highly, but when we talk about stories, we like to talk about prose, the characters, the filmmaking, just basically everything that's really not the plot. We like the themes and imagery. It's what keeps us going back to the works. That's why we love these characters. We love what they stand for. We love how they act. We love feeling connected to a work. It's kind of why we feel that when people get upset having a plot spoiled, it's not actually this fact that we are going to like a story less. It's that we had a certain expectation of enjoying a media a certain way. And when that is upset, changed in any way, we get upset. Actually, there's a study about regret that found that people experience the most regret for outcomes that are not repeatable. You could never unspoil a story. Me personally, when doing research for a paper that I did on this same subject and is the backbone for this very video that you're watching, had the twist of Fight Club spoiled for me. But not too long after, I watched the movie for myself, then immediately watched the movie again with the director's commentary. Then again with the commentary that has the lead actors and David Fincher. And again with the writer's commentary. I kind of really liked how layered the movie was and really wanted to know a lot more about it. Also, I was really on this film kick and I kind of wanted to do film. So that was a thing. I was still really interested in this, even though I knew the twist. I had my doubts even when I was watching it though. I was kind of looking for the clues. I still really enjoyed the movie, even though that is a movie that many people say the big enjoyment comes from the twist. I do agree generally about spoilers and plots being a bit overrated, but that's true about stories. What about spoilers that spoil mechanics of a game or exploration? There really hasn't been any studies about this, but what I know from personal experience might lend some credence. I think in certain games, spoilers can mess with a game, especially if the main draw is exploration. I don't think exploration is as particularly interesting if you knew where everything was or what to do. It's wouldn't be exploration, really. It's kind of why there's not a lot of stories about people going to pick up a gallon of milk. A lot of these survival type games live off of a progression curve of a player finding their legs and trying to figure out what the heck to do. For some of these games, there's not really much to offer other than exploration. So what place does spoiling mechanics or enemy placement and such have in gaming? How should a critic handle potentially spoiling a game for someone when they want to talk about these points to critique a work? Gamers are in particular wary about purchasing video games, and rightfully so. Lots of shady stuff happens in the games industry, so when game developers try to hide things, people are really cynical as to the intentions. But game developers, more so than filmmakers, try to prey upon an audience's lack of knowledge of what's going to happen. So to bring this back around to Hellblade in a bit of an aside, it's a bit of a problem that I have with consumer advocacy in gaming. The whole thing is very arbitrary. A lot of these people like to dig on bad games on Steam and say they shouldn't be there because consumer rights. But, some people like playing bad games, and some people just don't want to get video games spoiled. The thing is that it turns out the permadeath mechanic isn't actually a thing, which is obviously a spoiler. The developers clearly intended for people to think that the mechanic was real as to worry gamers. When I played Hellblade, though, I don't know. I still had this nagging feeling that everyone else was in on this big joke. Like, it was real, and I was going to mess up once or trigger some kind of weird bit of code that it would actually happen to me. It just really shows that I'm really a paranoid person, but it felt real. I generally agree with Roger Ebert that the critic shouldn't play spoiler. In general, if they're doing a general review, just to be clear. If you're doing a very specific review, then all means go ahead. I think that they should warn people when talking about a game, just out of common courtesy, which is where I come on to the call to action. I don't have a clear one because I really see both sides to this.
But I will say this, even if spoilers don't really necessarily ruin things for other people, it does upset people when you spoil things for them. So, out of common courtesy and basic etiquette, don't try to spoil things on purpose for people. Try to be a decent human being and put spoiler warnings on things. But if you do get something spoiled for yourself, don't worry. Now you could focus more on the symbolism, imagery, and themes of a work. You might find something new and something that makes you love that thing even more. Let's try to look at the bright side of things, okay? And that's all I have for you today. I hope you liked it. Let me know. I don't know what the next video is, but I hope that it'll be great. And I hope you'll be there to see it. All right. Bye. Have a good day. I'm not even smoking anything here. It's empty. It's just the prop. I bought this for $5. Just so you know, because I love you guys. Some of you. Most of you. I don't know. Except for you, Jerry.